I struggled with body image throughout my adolescent years, like most teenagers do. And I really tried to be like everyone else for a long time. I was quote unquote normal, and I was fine with that, at the time at least. Then it started to get harder and harder not to be myself, so much so that I blamed others for who I'd become. When I finally came to the realization that it was wearing me down to fit in with others' expectations, I finally became me, and it was so relieving. So when did I shift from being a carefree kid to caring about others' opinions so much? I can actually remember the exact day. It's so weird how you can't remember a lot of your life when you're younger, but you remember these life-changing expectations like they were yesterday. It was around the middle of 5th grade, and we were sitting in PE, and my so-called friend was sitting next to me. She just looks over and she's like, "Why haven't you shaved your legs?" And I go, "I don't know." And it didn't seem to really seem like an issue to her. It was really carefree, it didn't bother her. But for me, it was this huge deal. It was out of the blue, and she was just curious. However, to me, it was life-altering. It might just be like, oh, she got all freaked out by someone's opinion of her that young. Yes, I did. I was sensitive. I started to shape who I was to fit the mold of the society. I had my mom buy me a razor, and I started experimenting with makeup even though I was only 10. I wore clothes that didn't fit me right, and I didn't have very solid friends. I tried to get in with the popular girls so I'd be cooler. So yeah, didn't have a very great middle school experience. But the good friends I did have, I would push away because I wasn't used to hanging out with people that didn't want me to change. I don't know, sorry, this is kind of hard to talk about. I also had really bad issues with body image, and I developed a lot of trust issues and major anxiety that I still sometimes struggle with. It was extremely hard time for me and my family. I was hating myself. It was especially during my 8th grade year, during which I had seizures that people thought were more behavioral and kind of just looking for attention, I guess. So I got bullied pretty bad. I'm not really gonna go into that much, but it made my self-image much more negative and my suicidal thoughts much more prevalent, and I was only 13. But during my sophomore year, after 4 therapists and finally finding a sliver of self-worth to grow from, I started to change. It honestly started with me wanting to sleep in more. I gave up wearing a full face of makeup every day and slowly started wearing makeup less and less. It was really hard actually, because I was worried my friends and peers would judge me and change how they felt about me. I was also really self-conscious because I had pretty bad acne. I didn't want my imperfections on display. And then during my junior year, I got to the point where I'd almost never wear makeup, and just if I did, it was like mascara. It was really relieving. Not only did I get to sleep in, I started to realize that people didn't really care and supported me becoming more myself. I'm just gonna fix this. Makeshift here. My confidence grew the longer I decided to wear less makeup and dress more comfortably. I had amazing support from my friends because I'd found some really good solid friends, and they encouraged me to be true to myself and not focus on other people's wants when finding my own. I finally respected myself and didn't subject myself to peer influence. I used logic to realize that people don't really care as much as we make them out to, and others people's opinions shouldn't influence how you feel about yourself. So why am I telling you my story in front of today? So why am I telling you my story in front of you today? And it's really just to highlight how high rates of low self-esteem and depression are among teens. Well, everyone has experienced low self-esteem in their life, so we all know how horrible it feels to think negatively of yourself. And this is a continuing problem that every generation is facing. Sorry. According to the article Self-Esteem Issues from Amen Clinics, self-esteem problems are not considered an official mental health diagnosis, yet they can steal your happiness and keep you from living the life you deserve. And since they are often linked to conditions like anxiety, depression, and substance abuse, and others, it's important to seek help. So here are some facts. According to Jean Holthaus, a licensed social worker from Pinehurst Christian Mental Health Services, mental illnesses affect 19% of the adult population, 46% of teenagers, and 13% of children each year. This helps create a visual on how prevalent anxiety is and depression is among the teenage population compared to other ages. Another fact from the article, 11 Facts About Teens and Self-Esteem, states that among high school students, 44% of girls and 15% of guys are attempting to lose weight. Body image is huge among teenagers. No one feels that they have a perfect figure. This can inevitably lead to increased anxiety, lowered self-esteem, and depression. According to the same article, about 20% of teens will experience depression before they reach adulthood. Now, 20% of teens just in the United States, that's 8.4 million teenagers. Because self-esteem issues are linked to anxiety, depression, and substance abuse, it's important to get it controlled early. So, what can you do to improve your self-esteem? I'm first going to refer to a TED Ideas article written by Guy Winch, an NYU graduate psychologist. And his article, 5 Ways to Build Self-Esteem, talks a lot about replacing self-criticism with self-compassion. Now, this is easier said than done, obviously. But the main idea is to think to yourself, would I say this to someone I know, someone I care about? Probably not. I learned a long time ago to think whether or not I'd say these personal criticisms to my child self, and that really helped. Winch also highlights that you need to affirm your worth when things don't always go your way. This means if you don't get a job you really want, making an internal list of why you'd be a great employee and affirm that you're not a failure really helps to kind of boost that self-esteem. It's okay to fail sometimes because failing is what molds you to become better. So let's talk about how to improve body image. The article, How Do I Improve My Body Image, written by Mary E. Pritchard, a psychologist, is a great reference on how to help you feel better about your body. One thing Dr. Pritchard talks about and what she mentions is that you should take a social media cleanse for an allotted time, whether that be a few days or a week or even a month. Seeing perfect people all over Instagram and Snapchat makes people dislike their bodies more. Plus, escaping the judgment of others can really help eliminate social pressure. She also recommends that people should stop judging others' bodies along with your own to break that chain of hate. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the mindset of caring about others' opinions before your own. Doing this allows them to determine how you feel about yourself, which really isn't their place as a person. The ultimate guide on how to not care about what other people think of you and live the life you want is an article written by the blogger Nia Shanks. It has a lot of important messages. Firstly, realize that negative comments someone makes about you is actually about them, not you. A lot of people deal with internal struggles that tend to take them out on others to make themselves feel better. For example, 2 sisters, one of them might feel really uncomfortable with her body, and she'll point out her sister's flaws to make herself feel better. It's kind of natural, especially in girls. It's not right for them to do that, but it does happen. So, while it isn't right for them to do so, it's important to recognize that you are not what is bothering them. Secondly, be true to yourself. It's important to recognize that you shouldn't change your habits to fit others' expectations. Follow your heart and realize that other people shouldn't dictate your life. Now, third, you have one life. Don't make the mistake of focusing on what others want from you and focus on what you want instead. And while it may be somewhat morbid, realizing that death is inevitable, whether it's 20 years from now or 80, can really help persuade you to stop caring so much about what others think of you and focus more on yourself. Lastly, and this one is so important, people aren't always going to like you, and there's nothing you can do about that. Move on and realize that you don't like everyone either, and so nothing's going to change that. So, while this speech may seem redundant, so many of you have heard this before from school counselors, your parents, and your friends. It's extremely important to remember this message. You will always be you. No matter if your body changes, your personality changes, and your style changes, you are always you. Self-esteem improvement is a lifelong challenge that almost everyone is going to face. But make it easier on yourself, and please follow this guide. You are exactly who you are meant to be, and you will continue to grow as a person throughout your life. Don't let others infect the amazing person you can become with their judgment, and let yourself shine.